If all our government and president can do is send thoughts and prayers, then it's time for victims to be the change that we need to see.
In the wake of another large-scale mass shooting, Americans are yet again having a national conversation on gun control.
But we'll turn our grief into action. We have to have action. We don't have any action.
In the midst of the debate, many Americans may not be aware of two bills sitting in Congress that would significantly expand the Second Amendment. They're both called the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, and they would essentially allow any American who legally carries concealed in the state where they bought their weapon to take their legally hidden gun across state lines, even if the state they go to has different laws.
Like the problem is there's no context in understanding what's happening.
Robert Ridley is a firefighter and firearms instructor in Poughkeepsie, New York. He has held a New York permit to conceal carry for 11 years.
That's really frustrating for firearms owners because they're, as I said, I got asked, well, why do people need an AR-15? Like, why? What's the allure? Everything.
That question's being asked a lot nowadays.
Yeah, and like the guns and this and that, and I tell people, like, listen, it's the fact that there's millions of gun owners in the country who are being responsible, and there's a law or there's this outcry because of an incident, and they're not sure why they're all of a sudden being looked at as the criminal.
We, of course, believe in the Second Amendment. We are not looking to do anything that would infringe upon the Second Amendment. However, I do think that the public needs to be better educated on whether or not a gun actually protects you.
Rebecca Fisher is the executive director of the nonprofit New Yorkers Against Gun Violence. Along with other initiatives, she's trying to educate more people about a gun bill they may not be aware of.
And so it's critical that New Yorkers in particular and Americans all over the country do everything that they can to oppose this bill so that it does not become a law.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
One version of the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act has garnered a lot of conservative support after passing in the House in December. Many proponents say that it will help protect responsible gun owners as they travel across state lines.
Now, do you know anybody who's traveled across state lines out of New York State? Or perhaps they live in another state, but anyone that's traveled with their firearm and run into trouble with the law because they weren't traveling with their firearm correctly?
I don't know anybody personally. There was a case a few years ago where, she was a female teacher from Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, right?
In 2014, 27-year-old Shanine Allen was arrested at a simple traffic stop in New Jersey for being in possession of a loaded handgun. Despite having a concealed carry permit in Philadelphia, her permit was not valid in New Jersey. Unfortunately, no compiled data could be found to suggest the frequency that these sorts of arrests happen.
It doesn't happen frequently, and I can tell you that even though elected officials will say that they're trying to protect the rights and travel flow of individuals who carry concealed, that is not where their interests lie. The reality is that most of the people who are voting in favor of this bill are supported by the NRA and the gun lobby.
The NRA is the only force that's out there that's supposed to be on the side of firearms owners. And this one's really the only one that's out there doing something legislatively.
They are looking to make money, and that's what this bill would allow them to do, because if people feel that they're more able to travel around the country with their gun, they're more likely to buy more guns.
Last week at the Conservative Political Action Conference, Wayne LaPierre, the executive vice president of the NRA, warned what might happen if gun owners don't stand up.
Our American freedoms could be lost and our country will be changed forever. And the first to go will be the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution.
Though Rob Ridley has been an NRA member for over a decade, his enthusiasm for the organization is not absolute.
So the NRA has a very hardline approach to gun control, which is none at all because it's a slippery slope.
Right.
Do you have the same opinion, or do you think that certain things can be controlled reasonably?
It's hard. Like, on one end, the constitutionalist side of me is about states' rights. And the Second Amendment applies to the country and firearms, and they've kind of figured out that states have this ability to dictate their own firearms laws and their rules, and if they want to give concealed firearms permits or not. On the other end of it, like, I go into other states where I'm perfectly legal and I have a background check, I'm vetted, whatever we want to call it, and I can't carry a firearm in that particular state. I have to lock it up when I go in, abide by interstate transportation of firearms and everything else. On paper, like, it's a great thought, But I think in its application, it's going to run into some serious roadblocks.
It seems like a battle of conservative values.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a battle of everything.
We just all have to remember that this is not normal. We are not supposed to live this way. It is not acceptable that we live in a country of this kind and we can't go to school, we can't go to church, we can't go to a concert, we can't go to the airport, we can't go to a bar, we can't enjoy our lives the way that we should be able to without being concerned that we are going to be injured or killed by a gun.
For NYU Now, I'm James Fox.
And I'm Kamana Kamkwalala.